Welcome to the Technical Writing Success Video Overview by Senior Technical Writer Kurt Robbins.
All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to look at this number, $500 billion. It's kind of hard to even process, right? Well, that's the new valuation for OpenAI. And believe me, it is central to everything we're about to unpack. And a number like that doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It comes right on the heels of a huge announcement. OpenAI has basically just completely rebuilt itself from the inside out. We're talking about a massive corporate restructuring, and this is a really big deal. It totally changes the game for their partnership with Microsoft and really for their whole future.
Okay, so to make sense of all this, we're going to walk through it step by step. First, we'll cover the reshuffle itself. Then we'll get into the big conflict, the why behind all this. After that, we'll look at the new company structure, dig into the big unanswered questions everyone's asking, and finally, we'll talk about what could happen next.
All right, section 1. So what's the headline here? What actually happened? Well, OpenAI has officially turned its for-profit side into something called a public benefit corporation, or a PBC for short.
And why would they do that? Well, the goal is to try and walk this incredibly tricky tightrope. On one side, they need to raise just insane amounts of money to keep developing AI, but on the other, they're trying to hang on to their original mission. It's a super delicate and, super expensive balancing act. Now, this kind of major surgery on a company doesn't happen overnight. This change is really the culmination of a deep fundamental tension, a conflict that's been at the very core of OpenAI since day one. And this timeline really lays it all out, doesn't it? You can see the evolution. They start in 2015 as this idealistic nonprofit. Then, boom, 2019 hits, and they realize they need a ton of money, so they create this kind of weird capped profit thing. Fast forward to today, after a whole lot of drama, and here we are with this brand new PBC structure. And this right here, this gets to the heart of that conflict I mentioned. This was their founding mission. It's incredibly ambitious, right? Benefit all of humanity. But the question that has haunted them from the start is, how on earth do you fund that mission without, letting the profit motive swallow it whole? Okay, so that brings us to part 3, the new corporate structure. Let's take a look at what the company actually looks like now. This comparison really spells it out. On the left, you've got the old way, this kind of clunky structure with a nonprofit overseeing a capped profit company. Now on the right, it's a lot clearer. You have a nonprofit foundation that has governing control over a for-profit group. The key idea, at least on paper, is that the original nonprofit is still supposed to be in the driver's seat. So who owns what? This chart breaks it all down. Now, your eye probably goes straight to that big blue slice for Microsoft, 27%. But here's the really important part. The foundation, the nonprofit, has special governance rights. It gets to appoint the board. That's the whole mechanism designed to keep the mission in check, even with all these new investors. And let's talk about that Microsoft stake for a second, that 27%. What's it worth? Well, they put in about $13 billion. Today, that stake is worth $135 billion. That is just a mind-blowing return on investment. Okay, but a deal this huge with this much money flying around, it's not all sunshine and roses. As you can probably guess, this whole restructuring has kicked up a lot of dust and raises some really tough questions. And here's question number 1, the big one. When there's that much profit on the line, can you really stay focused on a mission to benefit all of humanity? Or does the pressure to deliver for shareholders just become too much? Well, the critics are definitely not holding back. Take this quote from Robert Weissman at Public Citizen. He's basically saying this move is just window dressing, that the for-profit side is already calling all the shots, and the nonprofit is just along for the ride. All right, the next huge unanswered question revolves around safety. This is a topic that has been front and center lately, especially with concerns about how powerful these AI systems are becoming. And you see this real push and pull happening. The new structure puts a nonprofit committee in charge of safety, which sounds good, but then you hear the CEO, Sam Altman, talking about plans to safely relax some of the protections and even roll out things like erotica. So you can see why that's making some people pretty nervous. And then there's the elephant in the room, antitrust. When two giants like Microsoft and OpenAI get this intertwined, you just know the regulators are going to start asking questions, and they have been for a while. In fact, the FTC is already deep into an investigation of the whole Microsoft OpenAI partnership. They're trying to figure out if it crushes competition. It is worth noting that Microsoft's stake is very carefully structured to avoid being a technical controlling share, but the investigation is still active.
So that brings us to our last section. What happens now? Where do we go from here? Well, what's interesting is this new structure actually gives both sides a bit more freedom. For Microsoft, their IP rates are now extended all the way to 2032. But for OpenAI, they can now work with other companies on certain products, and they're no longer locked into Microsoft as their only compute provider. Oh, and this is a big one. If they ever claim to have achieved true AGI, an independent panel has to verify it. So, when you boil it all down, this entire story leaves us with a really fundamental and kind of provocative question for the future. Can a single company, any company, truly balance a mission to benefit all of humanity with the immense, relentless pressure to generate massive profits for its shareholders? It's the question at the heart of it all. To continue exploring topics like this, I highly recommend you subscribe to the Technical Writing Success newsletter and join the Technical Writing Success group, both on LinkedIn and by Kurt Robbins. Thanks for watching.